Okay, so we have our triangle with the points given, A, B, and C. And for the circumcenter, we know the circumcenter is the point of concurrency of the perpendicular bisectors. And one of the properties is it is equidistant from the three vertices. So we're going to name the circumcenter point D, and the coordinates x and y. And we know the distance formula is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared all over square root. Now we're going to substitute x2 and y2 with the d coordinates, which is x and y, and x1 and y1 with the c, with point C. And we get this equation all over square root, and we repeat the process using point D and another point, and we use point A. And it comes out to be this equation, and since we know both lines are equal to each other, they're congruent, we can set the equations equal to each other. And once we can square both equations to get rid of the square root, and then simplify this, and we get this long equation. Now we see both sides have an x squared and a y squared, so those cancel each other out, and we are left with this equation. Now if we add or subtract the x's and the y's to this side and the numbers to this side, we get negative 14x plus 4y equals negative 1. Now we repeat this entire process with point D and another set of points. We use point C and B. And once the algebra is done, the second equation comes out to be 8x plus 10y equals 39. Now we're going to get the y's equal to each other, so when we add these two equations, there will only be one variable and we can solve it. So we multiply this equation by negative 5, and so the y would come out to be negative 20, and we multiply this equation by 2, and so that will come out to be 20y. And so we add these together, the y's cancel out, and we're left with 86x equals 83. So x equals 83 over 86, and when we plug in x, the math will come out to be y is 269 over 86. The centroid is where the medians intersect, and the medians are segments that connect the vertex to the midpoint. And we can find the centroid by finding the equations of the two median lines. First, we have to find the midpoints, which we just take these two coordinates, B, C, and we plug them into here. X1 plus X2 divided by 2 is going to give us our x coordinate for the midpoint, and then y plus y2 divided by 2 is going to give us our y coordinate for the midpoint, and that's going to be 3 and 3/2 for G, and E is going to be 3/2 and 5. Now we use the coordinates of point A, which is 2, negative 6, and point G, which we just found, and is the midpoint, to find the slope of this line, which is going to be 9 over 10. Now we put it in slope form using either point A or point G. We used point A. So the equation of our first line is going to be y minus 6 equals negative 9/10 times x plus 2. Repeat this process using point B and point E to find this point slope equation of this line. And that's going to be y plus 1 equals 12 times x minus 1. Now we subtract the two equations to find the point that they intersect, which will be the centroid. So we're going to distribute, and then subtract. The y's will cancel out, and we're left with negative 7 equals negative 12 9/10 x plus 10 and 1/5. And then we're just going to subtract over here, and that comes out to be negative 17 and 1/5 equals negative 12 and 9/10 x. Divide negative 12 and 9/10, and we'll have x equals 4 over 3. Plug x back in, and y is going to equal 3. And so our centroid coordinates are 4 over 3, comma 3. Orthocenter is a point of concurrency of the altitudes. And the altitude is a segment that runs through the vertex and forms a perpendicular line, is perpendicular to the opposite side of the triangle. And we can find the orthocenter by finding the reciprocal slopes of the line it forms a perpendicular line with. So the slope of line AC is -2/7, and the reciprocal slope of that is going to be 7/2. So the slope of line BD is going to be 7/2. And we're going to use the vertex this segment runs through, which is B, and that's 1, -1. And we're going to make a point slope equation. So the equation of line BD is going to be y plus 1 is 7/2 x times x minus 1. We're going to do the same thing with the AE line. We're going to find the reciprocal slope of BC. That's going to be the slope of line AE. We're going to use point A coordinates to make a point slope equation, and that equation turns out to be y minus 6 equals -4/5 x times x plus 2. Now, like the centroid, we subtract the equations to find the points they intersect, and that point will be the orthocenter. So we distribute first, distribute here, distribute there, distribute here, distribute there. Then we subtract the two equations. The y's are going to cancel out, and we're left with 7 equals 43/10x minus 19/10. Add 19/10 over there, and we have 8, and 9/10 equals 43/10x. Divide by 43/10, and we get x is 89/43. Substitute for x, and y will come out to be 118/43.